Hi, I'm Jeremy Hill with the Justin Journal, coming to you from higher ground here in Justin. Today we are sitting down with Shelby St. Claire, running for City Council, Place 6. We'll dive into his plans, his priorities, and what he hopes to achieve in our city. Plus, we'll learn a little bit about who he is outside of politics. Let's get started. To start, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what motivated you to run for City Council?
Let's see. I've been in Justin for about 6.5 years now. We moved here in June of 2019.
Mhm.
My wife and I were looking for a small, quiet town that has potential to grow. Um, Being newer to Texas, only being in Texas for 8 years, we saw what was happening with the Metroplex. When we first moved here, we lived in Burleson. Then we rented an apartment in Dallas until we figured out exactly where we wanted to live. And after exploring Justin quite a bit and McKinney, Anna, and Aveda, Justin just kept calling us back. And we started looking deeply at houses out here. We walked into one. I'll never forget it. It was in March, and it was a torrential downpour. We pull up to the house, the storm sirens are going off. We're like, oh, great, tornado, here we come. And the house was just everything that we were looking for. And we happened to get stopped by a train on the way into town, so it was just fitting. I grew up in a train town, so I'm used to hearing the trains. I'm used to getting stopped by the trains. Most of the time, I don't even hear the train unless I'm on the front porch of the mule barn. Um, so it kind of kept bringing me this direction to want to be in a train town because that's where I grew up, next to a military base in a train town, the most sound you could possibly have, and we had it where I grew up, and this just feels like home to me back in Louisiana. Um, I started getting involved in politics probably around 2021, 2022, when the city started pushing the bond for the Justin Town Square, where they wanted to build the new fire station, wanted to build this Taj Mahal City Hall, new police department. And I wasn't a fan of how the bond was presented. Um, the, the facts weren't adding up to me that the city was able to put out. And when you would ask council members certain questions, I wasn't getting the response I was expecting to get. Now, knowing what I know now after just going through this most recent bond election, there's certain things that council is legally not allowed to say, and there's certain things that we're legally allowed to say, like we can only present the facts, and that's what the current council was doing at the time. Of that current council, only two that were on that council are still here, which is the current mayor, James Clark, and Tomas Mendoza, who is city council place two. Um, so it made me really start paying attention to local politics more. I never had any desire to get involved in any type of politics until really that day, and I didn't like the way things were going. And I was like, well, I might just happen to run one day. And I was talking with James Clark one night, and he said, well, why don't you run? Okay. So 2024 election came around, and I decided to throw my name in the hat for the. Well, excuse me. Let me back up a little bit. They had an open seat when Councilman Jones had moved out to New Fairview, and his seat became vacant. And I was already on the ethics board at that time, so I was like, well, let me apply for that open seat and see if maybe I can get in, and then run when his term is up at the end of the year. And they went with Elisa Lena Kugel at the time, which great pick. She was a great lady, and she did really good on city council. Um, the way the city council went about appointing that ultimately led to some policy changes and some changes in the charter to address an open seat on council should we have one again. Um, but that really lit the fire under me to run for city council when the time came. And at the time of the election was seats 4, 5, and 6. I chose 6 just because, hey, I like to be last, right? Um, so I put in my paperwork, I believe on the first or second day. I think I was still on a cane at that time after my knee replacement. Um, Went in, met with the city secretary, put in my paperwork, and started the campaign. One thing I learned is you don't start too early because you can get burned out very quick. That was mid-February, and the election that year was, I want to say, May 4th or 5th. So it was a solid almost 3 months of me campaigning, and I was chasing yard signs up and down 156. So We won't be doing yard signs, in February again. That's for sure. We're going to probably start around mid-March. That way, we only got about 45 to 50 days of chasing signs due to our crazy wind here in Texas.
What accomplishments from your last term are you most proud of?
This is going to be, it's, I'm going to get laughed at for this, but we have lowered the taxes. Even though the taxes have increased, we've lowered the M&O rate, which is our maintenance and operations rate. I don't know the exact number of what the M&O rate is and the INS rate, but I know combined it's 0.67, which is a terrible number we've learned recently thanks to social media. But we have effectively lowered the M&O rate. If you go back and watch the city council meeting from, I don't remember the exact date, I want to say August 14th of 2025, I kept pushing to get lower and lower and lower. At one point, I even tried 64.5 cents for a combined rate. Ultimately could not get city council's approval, but I did manage to get it down to a 0.67 from where the city had proposed to a 0.70, which equated to about $325,000 that the city had to cut out of the budget to make things work for 2026 fiscal year. So that's one of my biggest accomplishments, is that we're continuing to lower the tax base. However, the rate did go up from the year before due to the bond passing, but we made it essentially just a steady rise of this. City was told that it was going to be a 7-cent increase on your taxes for the fire department bond, and that's essentially what we kept it at. It was just a 7% increase over the 0.60 that we were at the year before.
If reelected, what would your top priorities be?
My top priority is going to continue to be pushing smart commercial growth. I don't want to just say growth, right? Because it's too widespread. We can't just say we want growth, because nobody wants growth. What we want is smart commercial growth that can increase our sales tax revenue. We get sales tax from places like Higher Grounds that we're sitting in right now. Every dollar that you spend inside the city limits of Justin, whether it be destination sales tax from Amazon.com, Walmart.com, any type of goods like that, the city receives 2%. And of that 2%, you get the 6.25, which is state and county, and then the 2% that makes it 8.25 comes to the city. 1% goes to the EDC CDC fund, and then 1% goes to the general fund. As we increase our sales tax base, and that 1% that the city gets to the general to the general fund, that's effectively putting a downward pressure on your homeowners, your ad valorem rate, et cetera, which will help us come down from that 0.67 that we're at currently. I don't know where it's going to be for the next fiscal year. We're going to be starting our budget conversations here very soon. I have a number in my head. I don't want to put it out there just yet, of where I would like to see us to go. But that's going to be my number one goal, is pushing smart commercial development that brings in sales tax. Medical facilities don't bring in sales tax. Grocery stores, while it on paper does not seem like they're bringing a lot of sales tax because there's no tax on groceries, but if you buy razor blades, shaving cream, toilet paper, paper towels, those are taxable dollars. Doing some market studies from other areas that have brought in grocery stores, the amount of sales tax that just a grocery store brings in is phenomenal, and that will put a huge downward pressure on it. As everybody knows, there's rumors, and that's all I can legally say right now, of a grocery store coming to town. And I know people are tired of hearing, coming soon or stay tuned. I've seen a lot of buzz lately on social media, and I wish that we could put out information, but we're just legally not allowed to, because it's discussed during our executive session, which is attorney-client privilege. Reason we can't put that out there is that if we say that we're in talks with a certain grocery store, I'm not going to name any names just because I don't want any rumors getting started. But if we're in talks with grocer A, grocer B could come in and try to steal the deal, or another city could come in and try to steal that grocer from us. So that's why all that stays tight under wraps until there's signed contracts, 380 agreements, developer agreements, all that's in place. And then we'll be able to make the news announcement. We're close to making a very, very huge announcement. I just wish we could say a definitive date on it, but every time we go into executive session, we're getting closer and closer. So long story short, smart commercial growth that lowers our property taxes.
Realistically, what do you hope to accomplish the next 2 years?
Well, what we do today, we don't see for 5 to 10 years. That's kind of the caveat to this. We saw tree line development go in. It's still currently being built out. I don't know what year that was approved, but I think that was approved long before I even thought about being on city council. I never went back to look at the dates because that was before my time. There's nothing we can do about it, right? There's a 40-year deal where they can't be annexed. But one of the things I want to focus on is when we're working on our development agreements with our developers, whether it be commercial or residential, is making sure we're capturing as much revenue as we can from these developers and getting something from them, whether it be them working on a specific road project that the city needs. Say Boss Range needs to be widened and we have a developer agreement with something in Boss Range. Let's work that into their deal where they're paying for that, not the city, which again takes more tax burden off the city or off the taxpayers. Also, they can help with capital improvement projects, which would be water infrastructure upgrades, sewer infrastructure upgrades, etc.
What do you see as the biggest challenge or headwind facing Justin right now and the person who wins this race?
The biggest challenge we have is our aging infrastructure. We know that Justin was founded in 1887. I mean, it's all over our website. It's on the on your T-shirts even. I made Christmas ornaments this year that said Justin, Texas, 1887. So obviously we have very, very old infrastructure. This is a relatively old building that we're sitting in right now. So part of the capital improvement projects is upgrading our water lines, upgrading our sewer lines. We're currently discussing and in negotiations of pumping our wastewater to a different facility versus spending a ton of money to upgrade what we currently have here in Justin. We're going to spend less money and basically farm it out to another contractor, or excuse me, to a contractor, and that will again save taxpayers even more money.
What do you believe is the proper role of local government, and how should taxpayer dollars be prioritized?
That's a double-edged sword, right? Taxpayer dollars go towards running the city. That goes towards funding our library. It goes towards funding our parks improvement, our public works departments, our streets department. All of our city staff is paid from the general fund, except for the water department. It has its own fund. And then EDC CDC has its own fund, which is funded through the 1% tax that we're capturing there. They're actually paying the EDC coordinator, I believe is her technical title, director. They're actually paying her salary, so it's not a burden on our taxpayers. So we have a free employee essentially working on getting commercial growth. But all of that goes to police services, fire services, staff, HR, city manager, assistant city manager, city secretary, all things that we need to run a city. People think that the council gets a huge pay. We don't get a huge paycheck. I'll tell you, it's $75 a meeting for up to 2 meetings a month. I sit through at least 8 meetings a month that I get paid $75 a meeting for. So for anybody to ever accuse us of being in this for the money or we're the reason why the taxes are so high, totally the opposite. I would do this job for free just because I love what I do and I love serving my community.
There's been a discussion around term limits here in Justin. Do you think Justin should consider changes to the mayoral term limit?
Yes and no.
Why or why not?
So recently, at the most recent election, I believe it was the May municipal election, there was proposed changes for the city charter to decrease the number of years for city council, or excuse me, decrease the number of terms from 4 to 3, but increase the length of term from 2 to 3. One of those propositions passed, one of them did not. So now we each have 3 2-year terms, which has cut 2 years away from me. Instead of adding a 9th year, it took me down to 6 years instead of potentially 9. When you have a good thing going, why change it? That's why I don't want to see term limits. But at the same time, if you have a bad mayor or a bad council member or a bad council in general, you really do need those term limits. Scooter Garish, the mayor in Roanoke, I think he's been the mayor for 25 plus years. I think he's doing a phenomenal job over there. It's going to be hard for somebody to beat him. I've never looked at their elections to see if he's ever had any kind of real challenge or not. But you know, when you have a good thing going, why change it, right? And I think that currently we have some really, really good things going. We have some things that we do need to improve upon. We all know that nobody's perfect. Um, I like a continuance in government because it takes, like I said, 5 to 10 years to see what we do today happen. It's 5 to 10 years. So I'll be long gone before a lot of the things that we've decided in the past 2 years even come to fruition. So
Would that, so you kind of went on both sides of that. So, but would you, so you would be in favor of kind of removing some of those or extending the limits that
I would
maybe a
be in
mayor or a
favor of
city council?
extending the term limit, not necessarily extending the term limit, extending the term. The mayor is currently capped at 3 3 year terms, so that's 9 years. City council is obviously at 3 2 year terms, so that's 6 years. So you don't have a continuous 9 years where 60, 70, 80% of your council and mayor are the same people. Um, if they happen to get reelected, that means they're doing a great job and they're going to get reelected every year. If you have the same incumbents get reelected year over year over year, that means you're doing something really well. We want to keep that going. Maybe we push for 12 years for mayor, we push for 10 or 12 years for city council, just so we can see that continuance in governance. But when you look at term limits on a national level, you have some senators that have been there for 40, 50, 60 years. Most of them are probably drawing Social Security and a $300,000 paycheck from the federal government, and they're in a nursing home. We don't need that in Justin. Justin is a young, old town, if that makes sense. Every day we have 100, roughly 100 people move to Denton County, and I'm going to say probably 20% of those move to Justin. And it's the younger population that's moving to Justin. So let's keep it a little continuous as much as we can.
With residents increasingly asking for transparency, what specific changes would you support to ensure the community stays informed?
I'm going to say 2 years ago versus today, the city communications has greatly improved. We do have a new communications director, Amy Borders. She's been in her position for about 6 or 9 months now, 6 9 months roughly. I think she's doing a phenomenal job. We have now, I believe, a monthly newsletter that comes out. Obviously, as elected officials, we have a lot more information that we just can't share. But I try to post as much as I can legally on my social media page, my councilman page. I keep everything politic-wise off of my personal page and keep it all on my council page, because my personal page is for my friends, it's for my family that are in the off-road racing world, and old high school buddies. They don't care about Justin, Texas. I don't have but maybe 100 or so friends that I'm friends with on Facebook, that follow me, here locally. But more follow my social media page, and I share it to all of our groups. So we just need to do better, as all of us as council, elected officials and staff, sharing it to our local groups, because I may post something, the mayor may post something, Councilman Dennis may post something, and we could literally post the same thing on the same groups, and you would see it from one of us, not from all three of us. And that's just the way the algorithm works of social media. I do think in that most recent situation, I don't want to call out a specific neighborhood because things happen, right? I think the city could have done a better job at the mailers that were sent out. But then again, I don't want to put all of the blame on the city, because we know how lovely our post office is. Just 2 days ago, I received a piece of mail in my mailbox for Sanger, Texas. Not the same house number, not the same street name. Sanger, Texas. I took it straight back to the post office. So did the city mail it out to everybody? Did they miss an address? Possibly. I know there's one lady that did not receive a piece of mail, but I'm not sure if she has a mailbox at that location anymore. I need to speak with her more about that. But we just need to continue to put the information out there, because not everybody follows the City of Justin official Facebook page. Not everybody follows the Justin, Texas Friends and Neighbors. Not everybody's a member of the Justin, Texas All Things Welcome or the 76247. There's 14 different groups in Justin for on Facebook, and not everybody follows them. I find probably a new one every 3 months that I'm not aware of that pops up. I'm like, hey, cool, let me go join that group. It just seems like if somebody's not happy with the way a group's going, that they create their own group. Well, it's kind of hard to get the information to everybody if they're not on every group.
The role of city council often requires daytime availability for things like developer meetings, ribbon cuttings, and community events. What does your daytime availability look like?
Colton, I'm a little bit different than most that's on council. I work from home. I'm in sales. I do commercial security, access control, and cameras. My office is my home, which is about 1.5 miles from here. So if the city manager calls or city staff calls and says, hey, we have this, we need this, can you meet me here? 90% chance I can be there within 15 minutes as long as I don't have a meeting coming up. But I already dedicate my entire Thursday of every week to the city. Mm-hmm. As being mayor pro tem currently, that may change come this most recent election that's coming up. We'll see after May, end of May. But I still dedicate every Thursday to the city because I know I have my mayor's meeting every Thursday morning. We have city council every second and fourth Thursday, most second and fourth Thursdays. Obviously, we have to cancel some due to holidays or elections, etc. But I do dedicate at least one day of the week to the city. But as far as a random Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, if there's something going on, I throw it on my calendar as early as I possibly can. My bosses are very cool with me attending city events. They think it's really great that I'm involved in city politics. We just opened a new office in Fort Worth, so now I'm not driving to Carrollton when I have to go to the office. It's only 20 miles away versus 47 miles. So that's really nice for me as well because it makes me a little bit more available during the day. So my availability is if I can be there, I'm going to be there. I don't have a desk job that ties me there from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. where they're watching my team's activity or watching my keystroke log. I'm in sales. I work till midnight if I have to. There's many nights after council, I'll go home and work on a quote till midnight, go to bed and get up and go to breakfast the next morning.
What is your overall approach to staying accessible and maintaining consistent engagement with residents?
I'll put my phone number out there. Please don't sign me up for any more spam calls because I get about 14 a day as it is. Anybody would like to reach out to me, my cell phone number is 225-614-0668. Yes, it's a Baton Rouge, Louisiana number. I've had it for 25 plus years. I don't want to change it because it's on every business card I've handed out with my company for the last 16 years. I am at taco night at the Mule Barn every Tuesday if I'm in town or not recovering from a surgery. It seems like I have every 2 years. I'm usually there between 4 and 5 o'clock and usually stay till about 7. If we're not at city council on a Thursday, I'm at pizza night up there at the Mule Barn. I'm drinking Diet Coke, by the way. I quit drinking alcohol for pizza night, so I'm accessible on Tuesdays and Thursdays there. I'm at breakfast almost every day of the week except Mondays due to their closure at the Lonesome Spur. I've been tried to convince to come to higher grounds, and Mondays are my days I like to sleep in, so Colton hasn't seen me up here a lot on Mondays, and he doesn't have Diet Coke on tap. So if he can get that solved for me, I'm here on Mondays with a couple of friends. We typically eat breakfast every day somewhere in town, so I'm available. And if nothing else, shoot me a message, give me a call. I'll meet you wherever, whenever. Sit down, have a Diet Coke or a coffee, and I'll watch you drink your beer.
On a lighter note, what is your favorite drink?
Well, I should have worn the shirt today, but it says my blood type is Diet Coke. So there you go.
What do you do for fun when not serving the city?
We had a wild idea about 2 years ago to start a Run What You Brung event, and we tried to limit it to 49 cc's, but we don't listen. And it was basically build a mini bike, build a go-kart, strap a toilet to something. As long as it's got an engine, you can run it. And it was a fun run that we created some people call it a parade, some people call it this. It's just a fun run. We create a route that goes through basically every neighborhood in Justin unfortunately, except Meadowlands, as we're not legally allowed to cross over 156 or travel along 407. The first one we did was about 10 miles, and I can't remember if I rode my cooler cart or no, I loaned my cooler cart to a buddy, but I rode my mini bike that I bought the night before. But that's what I do is I build mini bikes, I build mini trikes, I fix them, I sell them. We go riding on a random Tuesday. And if we're not riding our mini bikes for fun, we're jumping on our Harleys and going on a 60, 70, 80-mile ride somewhere to eat brunch and then turn around and come home. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to ride my big motorcycle much in the last 6 weeks since my recent surgery, but I just got released on Tuesday. So I took a 12-mile ride from my house in Ridgeview to Margaritas. And yes, I made 12 miles without barely leaving the city limits of Justin. I hit a lot of streets, drove by a lot of people's houses, drove by Joe Angelini's house and honked like he does me every night when he comes by my place. But we like getting out, just riding motorcycles, riding mini bikes, and having fun.
Finally, and most importantly, why should the citizens of Justin vote for you?
I think I've shown in the past 2 years that when I originally ran my campaign on, it was on integrity and communication. And I think that I have shown that I have integrity, and without integrity, I am nothing. My grandfather instilled that into me a long time ago when he was in city politics back in the late 60s. He got appointed as a police juror in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and ultimately ran for I don't know how many years total. I think it was 18 years until he had to resign due to an illness. But it's you do what you say you're going to do. You be a man of your word, and you openly communicate with your constituents. You openly communicate with anybody that wants to talk, obviously within legal constraints of what we're able to say. But just integrity and communication is key. That's what I've always lived my life on, thanks to my grandfather, and that's the way I will always live my life. So if you want someone with integrity and that's willing to communicate, I'm your guy. Luckily, this election cycle, I am unopposed, so I don't have a huge fight against me, or excuse me, ahead of me. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm still going to be hosting several meet and greets. I will be hosting one here at Higher Grounds, thanks to Colton giving me permission last night. I will be putting those dates out on my social media here soon. I'm going to host 3 of them in town, unless there's a much larger desire for people to come out and meet with me and I can't speak with everybody, then I'll host a few more. Probably do those around 2 to 3 weeks prior to early elections.
Thank you. We'd like to thank Higher Grounds here in Justin for letting us use their space to record these interviews. The Justin Journal is committed to providing information for our community and does not endorse any candidate. Our goal is to simply give residents the opportunity to hear directly from those running for office. Thank you.